Well, hello everyone. I know everyone just came back from lunch. I'm always the post-lunch session. So stand up real quick and stretch it out. Yep. I know it sounds corny. Stretch it out. Yep. These rooms somehow get really warm and toasty after you eat, and just the itis starts to hit. So yeah, I appreciate it. I feel that too. That is a real life. That's like elderly millennial vibes. I feel it. So yes, perfect. Thank you for indulging. Appreciate it. As Sydney said, my name is Kirstin Garriss. So I am, I feel like a unofficial employee of the National Press Foundation because I've done 2 of their fellowships and obviously now helping out with media training. But I want to get a feel of the room. How many people have done media hits, as part of your job? Oh, perfect. Raise your hand. Raise them high. That's amazing. Okay. Awesome. Were they national hits, local, like your local PBS or local NPR? Oh, so basically, if you have been invited to do a news roundup or that kind of thing where you were interviewed, for lack of better words, but again, you were still a reporter, you're not doing opinion work. So this always helps me get a sense of what that means, because this is what this presentation is all about, is making sure that as you do your amazing, enterprise investigative work, you can spread it to the world. But also, again, when you're doing it well. So I always like to ask again how people have gotten their start. And let's see. All right, technology works. So when it comes to getting these media hits first, how many people have landed them on their own, or is someone at your office pitching you on your behalf? So raise your hand if someone is pitching you. Okay, that's awesome. Sometimes. Okay, and of those who have done media hits, how many of them did it yourself? Like you just finessed and it worked out? Okay, a little bit of both. Perfect. Well, the biggest thing, I want to start with, how do we land that media hit? The biggest thing, always get permission. Never assume, y'all. Always get permission first. Most companies are totally fine with it because, again, you being on TV or the radio elevates their profile and very few people pay. So there's a gift and a curse there. You won't get any money, but it's more exposure. We love that. The biggest thing to do when it comes to trying to land that first media hit is proactively pitch yourself and constantly do it. Your first email likely won't get a response. Your second email might not get a response. It might be the third or the fourth, but keep going, keep pitching. And to find out who are those producers, who are the people booking guests, definitely go to LinkedIn, social media. I've talked to several booking producers who say they want to hear from reporters. They're looking for you guys. And they're always looking for new talent who can come in and be part of a roundtable or again, do a solo interview about whatever work they're doing. Something else to consider is how can you pitch yourself as an expert? So how many people here have specialized beats where they only cover one thing? Perfect. That's one great way in the door. You are the expert in that topic. And show them that when you put in a couple of clips, whether it's your stories, and give them also stats. Hey, this article alone got 40,000 clicks on our website, whatever the case may be. So try to work with your team to figure out what are some of the metrics you can use to really beef up your pitch, your audition to try to get on one of these shows. Now, in some cases, with permission, obviously from your job and producers or editors, in some cases, it helps to also pitch exclusive interviews that will be published the same day. So for example, going to the local PBS or NPR station saying, hey, we just got an exclusive sit down with the city manager. It's going to come out on our website at 10 a.m., but we can talk at 8 a.m. The show might be more interested because it's okay, they get a little bit of a nugget. That's cool, that's different, also exclusive for them, but you're not stepping over your own publication. Those are conversations likely after you've gotten some media pitches, have that conversation, but it's another way to get in the door as well. I should also mention, if people have questions, comments, please chime in. I like this to be a conversation, not a me talking at you, because I'm a reporter as well. We're all cousins, okay? So feel free to speak up. And also let me know if there are things that have worked for you that would be helpful for your fellows. Now, when it comes to, again, trying to land that first opportunity or second or third, be open to every single time. And that also means early mornings, late nights. I know it's not ideal to work your 8-10 hour day and then have a media hit at 11 p.m., but that's one way to get in the door. Also, try to look for different shows that look for reporters. So again, those news roundups on the PBS station, on the NPR station. I know when I was in Charlotte as a news reporter, I was on both the PBS and the NPR station. They had Friday roundup shows. Great places to start. And then in some cases, even local news, they might need an reporter expert. You might be able to pitch yourself in that capacity too. Another thing to consider, radio hits first over TV hits. How many people have done radio hits? Okay. How many people have done TV? Okay, a little bit of mixture. Radio sometimes is a little bit easier to get your kind of groove because, again, you can have notes. You don't have to look, you're not worried about how you're looking. Is your tie straight? Is the jacket cute? You just have to focus on information. TV, you have to add all those other kind of superficial things into the mix. So I always tell people, try to do the radio hits first. And then we're actually coming up on a great time to do this training. This season, holiday season, this is the best time to try to get your foot in the door because all the regular anchors, all the regular reporters, they're taking off. And yes, you may not want to, get up early or do something late on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, but 30 minutes, get an extra media hit, well worth it. So after this session, actually, sometime this week, start figuring out which shows would you like to try to pitch to. Try to pitch people this week because they're already thinking about Christmas, New Year's, all that stuff. So something to consider as you are trying to get your foot in the door. Now, good news, you've booked the hit. We're gonna claim it. You've booked the first media hit. What do? You want to try to make sure that you have the questions or talking points that the producer may ask you. It was a news roundup show. You may have to talk on a few stories that maybe you haven't covered directly or you kind of know loosely. Make sure you have the information before you get into the door. Now, there are a few ways to prepare depending on if it's in person or virtual, but for the most part, regardless of that, you want to try to practice your responses. And I only say that because most people here are print reporters, maybe. So talking on TV or doing radio, very different skill set. You want to practice that. Now, I don't want you to memorize your answers, but more. Recording yourself answering some questions can help you kind of figure out what are my things? What are my facial expressions? Am I an eyebrow person that every time I say something, one eyebrow goes up to the left? Not a bad thing, just good to know. Also, are you I'm a hands talker. I know this. You'll see my hands flying around throughout this presentation, but on TV, I'm well aware, okay, if I need to use my hands, they're below whatever the screen is. Another thing to think about are excessive crutch words that all of us use. It happens. Some of them, once or twice, totally fine. But if you look up and every other word is, essentially, basically, just be aware of that. Not telling you to eliminate them, just say, okay, let's make sure that I only have one basically, one essentially, and if you feel like you are saying that word over and over again, think about why. Is it just to, have a placeholder? Usually that means you just need to breathe, and it's silence, and that can be awkward. It's okay. Take a breath. Something else to look at as you do that recording, see how long it takes you to respond to an answer. On TV, it's all about quick and concise. And so you might think, oh, I talk for 30 seconds, and it's a whole 2 minutes, and you're like, oh, I did not realize it was that long. That's okay. That's what we practice. And then I always tell people, one thought, one sentence, one breath. Pause. One sentence, one thought, one breath. It is so easy to, when you're excited or nervous, to keep talking and talking and talking, and then all of a sudden you look up and you're still talking and talking, and then the run-on sentence becomes, and you're doing that on TV. And that's in the middle of a paragraph. And I know with y'all being print, y'all like the long sentences, okay, with commas and TV, one thought, one sentence, one breath. So think about that as well as how do I just complete a thought? Take a pause. It's okay. It feels weird to you, but it looks fine on TV, I promise. Now, for in studio, because we're claiming you'll be in the studio, you'll be in the control room, all that stuff. You're going to be in person. We're claiming that. When that happens, check in with the producer, check in with the host, the anchor, try to get a feel for who you're going to be talking with, whether it's a solo hit, you're on a panel with a few other people, get to know who your other panelists are, review all your stuff, kind of just get into the zone. And if possible, like I said, get to know other people who are going to be maybe on this panel with you. If it's a solo live shot, take a moment. Woo-saw, zen out. This may sound silly, but you definitely need to do that to kind of center yourself before doing any kind of TV hit. And if it's virtual, definitely do that, but also eliminate any kind of distractions. So again, make sure the cat or dog, put away. If you have a roommate, say, hey, for the next 30 minutes, don't bug me, y'all. So try to do little things that will make sure you can focus in on that hit, however long it is. Now, like I said, during the live shot, I keep saying this, one hit, one thought, one sentence, one breath. One big thing, for those who've done TV, I think it's mostly this corner here, how many times have you been asked something and you were like, I do not know the answer to this? Has that come up at all? How did y'all handle it? Oh, sorry. We have to wait for the mic. I forgot about that. Okay. Anyone else? Oh, yeah, over here. Like I said, it's a conversation with everybody.
Yeah, my name is Lionel Ramos. I cover state government for KOSU Public Radio in Oklahoma City. And I've actually just said exactly that. I don't know. I'm working on getting the answers and basically pivot to what I do know and like as close to the topic that they asked me about as I can, essentially.
Yeah, definitely end up here. Just pass it on.
Hi, I'm Anjali Hood. I cover politics for the Globe. The best advice I think I've gotten is to answer the question you want to answer, which is whatever I've done in my, so like the facts that I do know, I'll like, that's a great question, and then like sort of pivot to something somewhat tangentially related that like I wanted to talk about anyway.
Perfect. Both great options. Now, I tried to avoid saying I don't know because then it looks like, well, you're the reporter, why don't you know? Instead, I may not be familiar, or if it is something you're legit working on, hey, we're working to find out X, Y, and Z. So that was something, I was a local news reporter in 3 different cities, and in my last one, market was Memphis, Tennessee. We called it process reporting, where if we didn't know something, like we're at a police scene or something, we would say we're working to find out what happened here. We're working to find out X, Y, and Z. That's a great workaround if you legit are working on it. But I also tell people, do not try to fudge it. I know you're nervous. You're trying to be impressive. Do not fudge. Just, hey, pivot to the next thing. And like you said, answer the question you want to answer, but make it clear you do know certain things, stay on what you know. And that's the biggest thing I tell people, just when nerves kick in, sometimes we just start talking. It happens to the best of us. Always try to think about, not familiar, here's what I do know. So I always try to like drill that into folks because it's life. Oh, go ahead.
Don't you ever worry that people watching are going to be like, that she didn't answer the question? Like, because I've watched TV and been like that. They asked that question, and now there's like no extra, like, we actually don't know what is that happening.
Yeah.
So I just wonder how you kind of, I guess, reconcile with that.
That is very fair. I think to me, I was taught in journalism school, no one cares who was first, but they care who was wrong or who was incorrect. I feel like being incorrect is way worse because now we have like this quote unquote cancel culture. Every hit you do could be on TikTok or Instagram the next day. It's kind of crazy just how much people are watching for viral clips. The moment you say something that's incorrect, that's the hit that's going viral, and then that's your whole credibility. But you're not wrong. That is something that I've seen it too, where it's like, well, why didn't they know? And that's life. But I think that is something where I wonder, how can the anchor, to me, that plays on another role. Like, does the anchor need to step in and address X, Y, and Z? But that's a fair critique. But the biggest thing for me is keeping our journalistic, integrity in place. And I think, again, knowing you all are, again, maybe newer to TV hits or radio hits, I would just say for you to, like, your first time out, you say something that's incorrect. Now, it happens where maybe we are talking about something we know and we speak. Then as you say quickly, oh, hey, excuse me, so-and-so, actually, I misspoke earlier. The correct number is X, Y, and Z. So there's a difference between having a correction that you need to make and, again, not knowing anything and you're just trying to make it work. But no, great question. And, we may not know the answer to that kind of stuff. It's a personal preference. And then actually going to my next point, I know in a previous workshop that I did about this, one person said she had a specialized beat of actually drug overdose. Like she covered the, drug overdoses, that medical world really specifically. And she said when she was on the show, the anchor actually used the wrong data, the incorrect data for the number of like drug overdoses in a certain year. And she was like, oh, what do I do when that happens? And I said, if it's possible, correct on site, but politely. So say, you know what, actually, Jim, you're correct. We saw so many overdoses, but this data, it takes a while to get updated. You may have missed the latest update. It's actually this many. That's one way to kind of like, also it reaffirms you're an expert, and it's a way to correct the anchor or someone else at the table without it coming off as like, well, who is this person? Where do they come from? But it really reaffirms your third authority in that topic, in that specialty. So make sure you know those things if it does come up. Normally producers are on it, but things happen. Any questions? Good? Okay, oh, we do have one.
This isn't really a question, but just in my experience at my radio station, we have a few shows, and producers have different hosts they have to work with who go off script very often. So just generally, some producers will be good at telling you oh, these are the questions or the topics we'll touch on, but then the host will just ask you a question that isn't on script. So maybe just prepare for if someone asks you stuff that isn't what a producer is telling you to expect.
No, absolutely. And that's something too, even before you hop on a show, especially if there's, if the host is, has that kind of tendency, it helps to even watch the show before you appear on it. Now, most times you're pitching the shows that you've watched or you've seen before, but definitely watch to see who's hosting and to see if they have that tendency to kind of ask you something. You're like, wait a minute, what did that come from? And that's another thing to watch I have distinct facial expressions. So being on TV for several years, I was like, I have to remind myself, I can't respond in real time with my face. But that was something I've had anchors who would do the same thing. They would either read the line I was about to say by accident or, ask me a question that was like, I have no idea what we're talking about. But again, we pivot. Question here?
Yeah, so obviously we're all journalists, so we know a lot of times we don't even like sharing questions, talking points, etc. So probably lean toward talking points rather than questions from an ask. But let's just say you do come across that anchor or that reporter who's like, cold turkey, nope, like I'm not providing you anything, but you obviously still want the opportunity. How do you best prepare yourself for that type of situation? And is there a good rule of thumb of like, okay, how many questions should I prepare? Like how many questions should I prepare that I might be asked, and how long should I spend on a question? Like, is there a general rule of thumb that you like to abide by in that?
That's a great question, and it actually goes back to your pitch. So say if you pitch what am I trying to say? Enterprise piece, and it's something that you've covered, send talking points as part of your pitch. Like, hey, I'm Kirstin, I can weigh on these 4 things. And then, again, they may not take those 4 things, but at least you're trying to help guide the conversation. Another thing, it also depends on what kind of show you're on. If it's a news roundup show, 99% of the time they will tell you what topics they want you to touch on because, again, they want a good conversation. But even on those shows too, go a little bit above and beyond and make sure you kind of know maybe, trying to think of the word, no extra context. So for me, I was like, I'm a history person anyway. So I like data, I like history. So if I can, I try to find historical context that makes sense for whatever topic I'm covering. So I spent a lot of spent 2.5 years in Charlotte, North Carolina, and that's where I was a consistent guest on the local NPR station and the local PBS station. I would always try to dive into historical stuff, but also how can I bring in perspective about, the racial makeup of whatever topic or the socioeconomic makeup, because I was often the only Black woman on these roundup shows too. So I am in that moment speaking for the Black community, which again, none of us speak for one community, but I knew I could add that perspective. So I always knew, okay, maybe this affects homeowners at this rate, but it affects Black homeowners at that rate. So think of other contexts you can bring as well. That's the kind of research I would do. And then the sweet spot for answers is about 90 seconds. It can be longer, especially if you're talking about, oh, I had this one-on-one interview with someone, or you're bringing in something that only you can talk about. Definitely do that. And then something else to think about, you're explaining your reporting in different ways. So, for example, an election night, we all know the results of whatever happened. Talk about the feel of the room. What did you notice? Was it excitement? Was it depression? Was it, we have all covered elections. We know there's a feel in the room, on the campaign trail. Those are other things to think about too, to bring into a media hit that isn't quote unquote, I did this interview, I talked to this person. It's more, oh yeah, you could feel the excitement. You could see how people were reacting as every hit came in, especially if it's a close race. Oh, talk about all the emotions you notice, because that is also reporting. It's a different kind of reporting we don't always put in our, newspaper article or in a TV hit, but bring that in as well. But those are great questions. And you had one here too.
Yeah, I was wondering, because I do digital writing reporting, so I'm usually not talking, but I have done media hits where it's a little more casual than I'm used to, and particularly for I had one experience where I was being interviewed about something. It was an investigation I had done, and so I was being very careful with my language about what we can say and what we can't say. And then the host is like, "That's so crazy. Sounds really corrupt," or something like that. They're kind of being more a little more colorful. And how do you respond to that in a way that's not no, or not shutting it down, but still saying not doing libel.
No, for sure. That's something ahead of time. Tell the producer, even tell the host, hey, this is a complex investigation. try to, let's steer clear from words like X, Y, and Z because it isn't this. And I think a lot of, again, most journalists, respected journalists will know, all right, cool. Especially when it comes to investigation. I know I'm the first one to say, you did the investigation, I didn't. So it's like, okay, if there's certain language we should use, let's definitely try to stick with it. And if it does happen, because again, like we said, hosts are hosts, try to, correct in a way that is still your style of talking, but also say, well, Jim, actually, and I say Jim because I feel like every host is usually a white guy, so sorry for, I feel like it's always a Jim or a Rob, it is what it is. But, kind of to say, yes, it is, this does sound crazy, but actually, this is what we're learning, this is what we're still finding out, and same thing, turn it back to, we're still working to find out, or we're still waiting for this thing to come in the court, or actually, the courts will determine if it's X, Y, and Z. So yeah, always lean back on your reporting, but you're right, it happens when someone wants to not intentionally sensationalize, it's just, their reaction is like, whoa, that's really crazy. Or that might be their actual reaction, and maybe even play into that, like, you know what, that was our reaction too, until we did X, Y, and Z. So there's ways to like move around it, but I'm always been on the proactive approach, where it's like, hey, you brought me in to talk about this investigation, just some heads up. Here are some things we're gonna lean towards, or it's important that we use this language because we're still trying to dig into X, Y, and Z. So yeah, but that's a great question because it happens, Yeah. Anyone else before we keep going? Great questions, guys. I love this. Every time I do this, I get different questions. So I love that you guys have different perspectives and whatnot. Now, how many people done live shots at home, virtual live shots? Okay. How do those go? You're laughing because you're probably like, not great. It's weird. Yeah. No, I mean, let's call it what it is. It's weird. You're at your house. You want to chime in the back? Give them I feel like you're about to like talk about it. Okay. Listen, I told you. Yeah, no, let's go for it. I told y'all it's a family conversation, y'all. We cousins, okay? So we listen.
Yeah, so one of mine was I did it with the CBC.
Oh, cool.
Like a producer called me.
I love
randomly. That. This is when I was still at Minnesota Public Radio. And it was July 2020, around there. So everybody was everybody was still getting their CLEX. It was a very strange experience. And it was one of those where the screen goes black. Yep. So I could not see anybody, but the producer could speak to me, but I couldn't see it was strange.
And that's exactly why I talk about live shots from home, because it's strange. It's weird. You're like, what is happening? Things go black. You can't hear people. You're like, what is going on? So this is why.
Share a hilarious story.
I think we talked about it.
So I'm doing this call at home, webinar or whatever, and I felt I was in the flow. I was smart. Sounded great, and hung up, and my best friend called and says, "You did a great job, but did you know there was a bra hanging on the doorknob over your right shoulder?"
It's happened to the best of us. That's why I say people, man, listen, and honestly, in my mind, anything that happened in 2020, it's a race. It's fine. It never happened. 2020, what was that year? No. But no, it's definitely, it's a weird thing to do because you're talking into a laptop. You're not seeing the human. It's already it's a new experience talking to someone, one-on-one in person at a table. Doing it at home, oh, absolutely, it's weird. So that's why I want you to have as many, tools in your toolkit as possible to make sure that when you are doing live shots from home, they're flawless, they're amazing. And when technical difficulties happen, because I say when, because they will, it's life, you know how to pivot and make it work. But the biggest things I want you to think about is your background. Rachel just talked about that. What's behind you? Your setup. How is your lighting? What tools do you need that are also very inexpensive? And then your look. So what are you wearing? Makeup, all that stuff. Because honestly, these days, even if you show up in person, the days of a makeup studio, a makeup lady doing your stuff before you go on TV, they have sadly gone away. So I wish they haven't. But when it comes to creating the right spot for, live shots, interviews, I also tell people, create a Zoom room. Now, yes, this can be tough. You live with people, you live alone, but you live in a box because we all live in cities. I get it. Try to find a small corner that you can use quickly or set it up right away, and it's good to go. Also an area with some decor, we want to see your personality, but not too much, and you'll see some examples. Also, be careful of the windows. If you're in TV, windows can be your best friend or your worst enemy. Often it's your worst enemy, depending on where you set yourself up. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, we're coming up on a 2026 midterms. Hopefully, all of y'all are traveling. If you cover politics and you're doing live shots from in the field from where you are, all these tips also work if you're in hotel rooms, because I know you don't always get to choose where you'll be, and next year's gonna be a really busy year. So keep these in mind for then. So some examples. Have anyone seen the rate my Skype room on X? Yes, golden. This is one of the few places on X I'm like, please stay alive. This feed shows you what to do and not to do every day, multiple times a day. They rate it. Sometimes I disagree with their rating, but that's an individual preference. But these are some great examples of framing, what to put in the background. I went through countless examples to try to find the best ones that were easy to replicate. So again, almost everyone has a bookshelf. Great. That's the fastest thing you can always do is set up your chair, your desk near a bookshelf. Now, some other good examples. I love this one. I think they're in a hotel room, but this to me is it could be their actual guest room, whatever. But this is giving hotel room vibes to me, where it's all right, I can't change how the decor looks, but they worked it in a really great way. Plants, also, my favorite thing to put somewhere. So think of these different things when you're trying to figure out what is my setup. But then, things to avoid. So windows, like I said, you can see the windows. In this case, they're not helping her because they're kind of blowing her out. And on top of that, it's distracting. Now, had she been facing the window, she would have been lit perfectly. Something else to keep in mind, your chair. This right here, again, when she bought the chair, I'm sure it's really comfortable. But again, and it's okay. I looked at all this stuff too, and I thought, oh my goodness. And I want you guys not to have that happen. I want someone to pay attention to what you're saying, not, what is that chair doing? And then this is one of my other favorite ones, the tiger eyes. I have no idea what's happening, but when I tell you I want to know the story behind these tiger eyes, and that is not the point of the story, And I don't want that to happen to you guys, where someone's like, what is that art? And they're not listening to whatever your reporting is all about. Can I see a question? Yes.
Of course. Could you go back to the previous slide?
Yes, definitely.
So that one on the left, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I would loop that one in with the next slide. And
That's
personally,
fair.
if I was in his shoes, I would have blurred the background. Do you think that blurring the background is appropriate?
So I actually say do not blur the background, because that cuts off your ears, your hair. It gets weird. And then people are like, what are you blurring out? What you doing? What you hiding? But it's also it really cuts out your ears. And you're right. I picked that one because to me, it looks more like a hotel room. Okay. And I know we don't have control over that decor. So that one struck me, again, now that I look at it, it could be someone's guest bedroom. But to me, it gave me hotel vibes where it's like, yeah, I can't control how this is set up. But you're right. That's not my favorite. But yeah, when you're in traveling. But yeah, if you can, I always tell people avoid the blur feature and avoid the fake backgrounds, because those again, it's AI trying to find your face. It's just not great. Now, if your job says every time you do a hit you must use, listen to your job. Definitely do listen to them. Comment here, question?
Yeah, I had to do a few of these from hotels a couple of years ago, and my way of getting around the bed showing and stuff was just piling books or whatever I could find on top of each other, and then putting my laptop on top of that, so you can avoid having a bed or the distracting things like the bedroom one in there.
Exactly. And again, this is one of those where it's all right, the bed is not horrible, but, and again, it's still not distracting artwork. And again, no background will be perfect, especially when, again, you're traveling or doing something else. These are just things to definitely keep in mind. And I think it's more, I'm not also telling you guys to buy all new fancy art, but look at what maybe could be changed, but just be conscious if you do have something really dramatic in your house, maybe that's not your backdrop. Because again, depending on how you're sitting, it will read differently on TV. Some in the back? Yeah. I know we have one up here too.
Do you also think that Joey Jackson's background is too flat? If you look at the other ones have depth versus...
Yeah.
Is that a problem with his as well?
So, let me go back.
Or I guess I should ask, what are your thoughts on flat backgrounds?
Yes. No, I totally hear you. To me, flat is fine. I think it's more, this is where I'm going to show you this. This is what I want you guys to avoid at all costs, is the white wall. I know. Again, but you can tell. See, exactly. So, and that's a great question. I think it's more, how can you avoid this at all costs? Avoid this, avoid the blur. Some things will be aesthetics. Again, like I said, what makes sense with your space? Again, I wish we all had mansions so we could just have a Zoom room permanently. We're reporters. But the biggest thing is making sure your room, whatever background you have, doesn't feel flat. So again, I think it's plants, it's artwork, bookshelf, all these things that I think a lot of us have. Even if I think everyone has like everyone has a durable couch. I feel like that's like the first reporter purchase is like, I'm gonna have a couch if I have nothing else. There's ways to frame around what you have. And this, I can even have Alyssa send it, I'll find it, but this Rate My Skype Room, this is great inspiration. I mean, I could spend hours going on that account to find things that work, that don't work. But this, if you remember nothing else, please, no white walls. Because that alone is just, everyone reacted to it like, oh no, that's the thing. No one looks good on the white wall. It definitely reads flat, and it actually can be its own distraction. I think people are like, oh, I have no distractions, that's great. It's like, no, that is the distraction. So that's something to keep in mind. And, a lot of us, no one's skin tone even looks good on a white wall either. Like, that's just something to like think about too, is like, no one, you right, girl, yeah, exactly, you right. And now your question. No, you're not wrong. That's how I felt too.
Oh my God, I forgot.
Put you on the spot.
It's kind of silly, but there's this area in my home where like the lighting is spectacular. Like sitting in the corner where there's a window, but like I have a wine rack there. So like, is that a no-no as far as like having that as like, it's kind of, it looks like a bookshelf. Like it legit looks like a bookshelf, but it's a wine rack, So should I not be having that in the background? Is that kind of taken out of context? Obviously they know I'm an adult, right? But
oh yeah, no. Again, this is a safe space. That's what we ask these questions. I would say if it doesn't, actually, this is a great exercise. Do a Zoom with someone you know from that angle and be like, hey, what do you think that is? If they can identify it as a wine rack, it's like, ooh, never mind. If they're like, oh, girl, it's a cute bookshelf, you might be okay. Now, if you need to like move out some wine bottles, I do TikToks now for my bookshelf. I have wine bottles as like decoration. I take them off before I do my TikToks because I'm like, I don't want someone to. It's one of those things. We're trying to anticipate what we don't know the comments or critiques will be. I'm anticipating people I don't know on the internet what they'll think. There's no right or wrong answer. You're correct. We're all adults here. But I also know that I think media now, we're all being judged harshly over what we look like, let alone our work. Our work should speak for itself, but it doesn't. They're gonna say, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that. I have gotten countless emails about how many people didn't like my hair, my outfit, and it had nothing to do with my report. It was just, oh, why her hair look that, like, da-da-da-da-da, why she get braids? That's fake. It's like, y'all, did you not see the investigation? Nope. So I say that, test it out with some friends, see what it looks like, but know that unfortunately we're all critiqued for what we look like before we say a word out of our mouth, which is frustrating because again, everyone's here for a reason. Everyone puts out great work, great content, and that's something we still have to figure out and battle are the internet bullies and trolls. So go ahead, yeah.
This is less of a question, more of a thank you, because as a video producer, these are the exact things that get on my nerves when I'm directing people for shots like this. So thank you. Please save your producers time in getting stuff out of your background.
And there's something you want to add, please jump in. I think that's the thing too. I don't want this to be a conversation because there are things you've probably noticed, or I know other people mention great examples that they have experienced. This is something I want us all to walk away with more info, because this is something that a friend pointed out to me. The headphones. Now this is very minor. This is like the last. Do everything else first. This is like aesthetically things. If you can, avoid the cords or tuck it behind the ear. I know guys, sorry you can't quite do that. Ladies, we can tuck it behind the ear real quickly. But if you can, AirPods are your best friend, or any kind of AirPod adjacent, thing, only because it just takes away one more distraction. And I think that's the thing I tell people. You're just like, I'm here to talk about my work. People at home are watching everything else is on their mind and they're looking at different things. So something to keep in mind, but this is again, the last thing I would think about. Think about the other things first and some of the other things coming up. Lighting. Now, no, we probably feel the same way about lighting. Oh, go ahead. We have a question in the back behind you, Rachel.
Hi, Richard Seam at the Washington Post. I'm just curious about, like, I noticed some people have, like, their books or their affiliation in the back. Is that, like, that's fine, or is it tacky if you're, like, trying to promote something? Or,
yeah, no, I think to me, it's yes and. So I actually know Shaniqua personally, and I should probably tell her she's in this presentation, but that's another thing. This is her company, she works for that company. So it's a subtle nod without like wearing a t-shirt that says, Vote Save America. I think when people have like their book, I'm like, okay, like, and then unless they're talking, like if the hit is about their book, yes. But if it's like about something else, it's like, all right, guys, I think if you have, to me, I like when people have, this is a personal thing, like mugs with their news affiliation. There's a way to like subtly add news to your backdrop. But honestly, again, make it whatever your thing is. But no, it's not a no. It's also, it's hit or miss. But great question. Now, lighting. This is a big one. You have to be lit. Like that is just, yes, lit has multiple meanings. But in this case, please, lighting is your best friend. And these are all tools that we can make sure you get links to that are inexpensive. You should be able to expense at your job. Again, it's a work purchase, okay? Now, if you use it for selfies on the weekend, hey, that's all you. But these are also small enough that they can travel with you, because that's the biggest thing. You are gonna be on location somewhere. They also clip on your cell phone. I actually have this one that I use all the time for my TikToks when I do them outside. But these are small ways to add lighting that is so critical, because without it, you're gonna look also even more flat. Now, this stuff is all suggestions based on 15 years on TV. This is thankfully changing. I've seen more patterns, I'm seeing some other things, but these are some things that kind of, when you go through your wardrobe, just think about it. Look at what you have and see if you can add some pieces as you're starting to do more TV hits. And again, think about how much do I want to invest? How much am I doing this stuff? So for women, bright colors are our best friend. Honestly, everyone has like really bright colors. The pattern here, not bad, no. And I'm pointing you out as like, in person, it looks great. On TV, it may read differently. So this is one of those, again, you hop on a Zoom with a friend. How does that read? A lot of this stuff is kind of like seeing how it looks. You don't know. I've worn patterns on TV that look great. I've worn them and I was like, ooh. To myself, I was like, ooh, this didn't read the way I thought it would. And it's a weird, like, it's something with the TV and the eye. Like it's hard to explain, but it's just some of those things where I've had some patterns look great, others, and I was like, I don't know. But if you don't want to like think about it, bright colors are your best friend. And honestly, bright blazers. You see me, I'm wearing a black top, but bright blazer. If this was switched, I would have been telling myself like, what am I doing? So something to keep in mind. Now, women, we love accessories. I love accessories. I'm with you. Think about which ones may be distracting. Something we'll do if we have time. I will also just have you guys sit at a desk, talk. Does something clink? Does something, hit? That can be a distraction as well, unintentionally. So some things to think about. I always tell people, avoid black if you can. Oh, we have a question back here. Only because I think, again, you can add more to it. But at least these are like, again, local TV kind of directions that we've been given for years. Go ahead.
Just more of a comment. Also, white. Staying away from like an all white shirt. You can throw off the white balance in a camera.
Yes.
And that
Also
can
a great
make your
point.
skin look weird or yellow or whatever it is. We tend to be told to stick to jewel tones.
And
yeah.
Ta-da! You'll all see it too. Yes. Now your outfit here in the all white, also very Olivia Pope. Love that. If you were doing like a live shot outside, that's great. In studio, same thing. It might, but just a color blazer, the white top is fine. So just think about that.
Is the black thing because it's boring, or just like? Oh, sorry. Is it like just to be more interesting, or is it like it looks weird on camera?
It just isn't. The bright colors help make your skin pop, makes everything just pop more. Black is just really subtle and like, it just doesn't read well. It reads okay on camera. Like I've worn all black on if I'm in the studio, I've worn all black because the studio is sometimes super bright, all that stuff. But again, thinking if you're at home, if you are, on a round table and the lighting isn't set up for you, but really if you're at home, I say avoid black. And I say this because a good example, one of my fellows from IHG, Paul Miller, and I told her like already all this critique. She did a great hit, 5 a.m. Unfortunately, it was super early. And she didn't have a lot of great lighting, and she was wearing black. She faded into the background of her own live shot. Because again, it's dark. She didn't have the proper lighting, and she was wearing all black. So that's also why I say avoid black, because depending on what time you're doing a virtual hit, it's not gonna, again, I have nothing against the color black, but if she added a blazer like this, it would have made her pop. But that's a big reason. It's just, you kind of fade into the background. Oh, go ahead.
Me, right?
Yeah.
What about makeup?
We're getting
is
there.
that next slide?
Oh, no, you're good. Stand by. I got to get to the fellas, too. So you guys are not off the hook as well. So same thing. Now, I have also seen, how do I say this? Fashion in general is changing on TV. This is 15 years, like I said, of local news where we have a rigid wardrobe, and it is what it is. But I have seen more variation with like men's clothing. And the last time I did this presentation, someone talked about Eugene Daniels was on MS Now. Again, I'll see, there we go. But also fabulous wardrobe. Like I want his wardrobe. Just be prepared. This is men or women. People are going to talk about what you wear regardless, unfortunately. So the more you do these TV hits, the more you do radio hits, someone is going to critique something that is so superficial and is very annoying. Let it roll off your chest and keep moving. But I will say, the flashier you want to be prepared for people maybe not to like your style, and that's just, it is what it is. It's very unfortunate, but I like to tell people that the more exposure you have, the more comments you get from random people, which is very annoying. But if you're kind of struggling to figure out what do I wear, this is kind of the tips for that. And so for men, I love the jewel tones, maroon, all that stuff. These are great things like your tie. Also, one of those in between. It's great in person. See how it looks maybe on a studio or in on a Zoom real quick. Because again, in person, it looks great. On a camera, someone may say, what is going on? And again, it's just, we don't know. It's like, you don't know until you do it and you're like, oh, maybe I won't wear that again. So, and I've had that happen to do before where I wore something I was like, ooh, this dress is never coming back out on TV ever again. Makeup, ta-da! Because trust me, I was not about to leave y'all hanging, okay? We're not doing that. So in TV, we have something called a go bag, which is everything you need to just go. I want you to make a makeup go bag that you can keep with you in your backpack, purse, whatever, and you just have it. And it's for men and women. Men, you are not off the hook. Yes, you too have to wear some makeup on TV. Yes, makeup is for everyone. But the few things to keep in mind are your eyes, skin, and nails. So foundation is for everyone. Yes, foundation is for everyone because you want to look matte on TV because the lights can add shine, all these other things, and that's lights at home or lights in the studio. Something to keep in mind. Another thing to always have is translucent powder. This, same thing. It adds a nice matte finish and it blends everything in together. Now for men, you may only need setting powder. You don't have to do too much. Something to think about as well, when you do foundation, add a quick bronzer in because you want to add some more color to your face. But these are all small things you can find at CVS, Walgreens, anywhere you're going. Question in the back.
This is actually my first time making a comment during a session. So
I love this.
For me. So I used to do the makeup for the studio at MPF, and men, you will need more than you think, and that's
yes.
Okay. Like if you're doing powder specifically, powder and then look at how the light is hitting you.
Yep.
Because you might not think you might look in the mirror and be like, I don't look shiny. But then when you look at yourself with the makeup on camera and the lighting hit you, I would have to go back out 4 or 5 times and repowder people's faces. It's fine. You can wipe it off after, I promise.
Exactly. You don't have to keep it on all day. It's all totally fine. Some other things to think about is your eyes. So again, you don't have to do the whole, I'm not asking you to watch makeup tutorials, none of that. But for women, a little eyeliner, mascara goes a long way. It just makes your face pop. Now, if you want to dabble in eyeshadow, I'm here for it. Please do it. But speaking to Alyssa's point, give yourself time. If your hit is at 2 p.m., start at 1 p.m. Because all this, if you're not used to doing makeup, it will take you longer than you think to get ready for a hit. And you want to have time to, again, think about what you're going to say, think about your background, all that stuff. Things to also, as you are buying different things, buy travel sizes. Especially if you're I don't know about this makeup thing. Because makeup is technically a chemical. It goes bad. So don't buy the big thing of mascara and you're going to use it once, because then you're going to be upset when 6 months later you're like, oh, this looks kind of weird. Yes. So try travel stuff, and also as you're trying to figure it out, because I know for a lot of folks this is new. If you want to dabble further, fake eyelashes. I wear them all the time on TV. That's my jam. But it also took me 30 minutes per eye when I first started doing them. Now I can do it in 5 minutes. But again, anything you do to your face, just give yourself time. And then for men, I think this might be on my next one. Oops, hold on. Went too fast. Men, I think it's on here. Yes, eyebrow pencils are good for filling in parts of your beard. Because again, in between shades, whatever it is. See, so you too have different things. Now, the biggest thing is, also another thing to think about is your lips. Try not to go out without anything. A tinted lip balm is your best friend, ladies. If you want to go dabble in the lipstick, I love it. Keep it matte, because same thing. You don't want your face shiny. You also don't want your lips shiny. And all of a sudden, people are like, what is going on? Again, in person, a lot of stuff looks great in person. It doesn't read well on TV. So that's the biggest thing that I want you to think about. Some of my go-to brands, feel free to save that. These are things you can definitely find CVS, Walgreens. And I say that because if you look up, you're on a reporting trip. Where can I go? You can find all these things at these convenience stores. I wanted to make sure I wanted to list brands that were accessible wherever you were. So another thing, if you want to, how do I say this? Finding your right match can be difficult, and I also want you to save your money. Go to an Ulta or Sephora and have them match you. You don't have to buy it there. Match you, get the certain tones you need, and then go forth. Now, if you want to go deeper, this is one of my homegirls. She's amazing. She's actually an anchor here in DC, WJLA. Jasmine is the makeup queen. Like, amazing. I've already talked to her. She's been on all of my presentations. Feel free to DM her. Sometimes she does in-depth consultations for not very expensive. And that's really if you really want to dive into eyes, face, whatever the case may be. So I offer that as always. But yeah, ta-da! That's my presentation, y'all. But any questions? I definitely want to it's a lot at once. Yes, behind here. Or, oh yeah, we got the mic somewhere.
Hi, Alicia Brown, States Newsroom. I cover reproductive rights. I recently had a radio hit, which it's only my second time on the radio, and I hadn't done that in like a year and a half.
Yeah.
A lot of just now.
Hey, it happens, yes.
How did you work out of that, if you ever had a problem with that, and other filler words like,
Practice. It's honestly practice. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get. I have the advantage of, like I said, y'all, 15 years in TV, but I have made mistakes on local news, okay? I have bombed live shots, and in markets where viewers cared, and they were like, oh, that girl, she just said X, Y, and Z, and it was actually this, and you're like, guys, I know. So trust me, practice, and to me, the next hit is always better. So that's something to keep in mind, too, is your first radio hit in a while, all right, might be a little rusty, but the next hit will be better. So to me, it's just every media hit you do, how can you just keep improving? How can you keep pushing to the next one? But something you did, watch and listen to your stuff. It's cringy. I'm not going to hold you. It is cringy to watch back your hit or to listen back and you're like, oh, I sound like this? But that's how you get better. And then you find out, oh, I say the or I say or I say essentially, so I think that's something that as a TV reporter, we were trained to just watch back our stuff. But I know it's not always taught to other sequences. I know when I talk to my newspaper friends, they're like, oh, I've never watched a hit. I just do it and move on. And I realized it was something that was practice for me to go back and look at my work. And again, take a moment, you're like, all right, this was better, this was okay. And you kind of work for the next one. I see here. But great question. Uh-oh.
Nope.
There we go.
Hi, I'm Chloe with Al Jazeera English. I had a question kind of on the opposite end. I produce a lot of reporters for their hits, and I always struggle with trying to give them all this information they will need, like Zoom settings, just all the stuff in your beautiful presentation, and also prepare them editorially. So I guess my question is, what is the best way to prepare reporters for their hits in a way that is, you do a lot of these trainings in a way that feels comfortable for them and not too strict?
Yeah, I think if you can, even making a one-sheeter, and it would take more work on your end, but it may give you more payout in terms of you do the work once and then there. I know as a reporter for me, I'm scanning emails, but for some reason, something on one sheet, I'm like, oh, okay. One sheet in pictures, I will stop and say, oh, I need to look like this, perfect. But reading your settings, I might not read certain things, but if I see, oh, don't have, again, the tiger eye photo in my background. I just use that as an example, but that might be something, making a quick one-sheeter on aesthetic things you want reporters to remember, but then having the checklist at the bottom of make sure your settings are XYZ or that your lighting is whatever the case. But that might be something I would try. But yeah, I feel like a one sheet, anytime I see that, I'm excited. And even ask some of the people who are regulars on your shows. Hey, what would help? And I think that also works as well as like getting their feedback. I think, again, coming from a perspective of TV, I think of things so differently because it was part of our training in journalism school and just on the job. But I know there are certain things that like I think of naturally that other people are like, I never thought about makeup. And I'm like, well, duh. But no, I appreciate your job. All the producers, thank you. Y'all are so important. Any other questions? And then if we have time, I'm gonna do a quick activity that gets everybody up and about. So stay tuned, there's gonna be some movement.
Hi, Daniela with Connecticut Public Radio. Thank you for this. So I have been on our shows like in my public radio station where, these are people I work with and, they're like, talk about your story or whatever. I live off of a script. I can't ad-lib to save my life, but I know the idea is to be more conversational and do all that kind of thing. So I guess my question is like, what can I do to help myself feel more comfortable on camera or even just on the radio where I am supposed to be having a conversation and not freak out of like, oh, what if I say this wrong or whatever, Yeah,
bullet points are your best friend. Yeah, bullet points, and then even, like I said, going through those bullet points. I never want you to memorize a script, so do not, think of this as, I need to know all my points, and I need to, practice the answer that I gave them. Nope, do not do any of that. But practicing, I think, answering a question can kind of help you see, oh, did I mention this early enough? Did I wait till the end to get to the important nugget? It kind of helps you just start thinking about how am I answering this question. But bullet points are your friend. And then something that we say in TV all the time, act as if you're talking to your mother or your dad or your cousin. I mean, I always tell people I think about my scripts as I'm talking to my group chat. So, how would I tell them X, Y, and Z? And I think it helps you kind of turn your brain in a different way because you're like, oh yeah, I'm texting my friend. And all of a sudden, your story that is informational and engaging and all that stuff becomes a chat thread. And it's like, oh yeah, I can talk about this complicated thing in a few sentences. So try to think of it that way. But yeah, since it's radio, you get the beauty of notes, which is great. You can have some notes. And I think something else to keep in mind too, it's okay to refer to notes if you want to, triple check a number. Even on TV, I always tell people that shows the viewer, the listener, that you are trying to get the facts. You're not trying to mess up and say this. And sometimes I'll say, hey, let me check my notes. Yes, the number is 222 point, whatever, the case may be. So that's something too. I think we think about all these things as like, oh, that's a disadvantage if I look down. No, that's great because it shows I want to get this right. I want to make sure people know the information is correct. Now, every answer don't be in your notes, but if it's something that you really want to make sure is correct, that's totally fine to do. Any other questions, comments? Oh yeah, back here. Yeah. Oh no, love it. And thank you guys for the engaging questions, for real. This is great. I really appreciate it.
Of course. So in this radio spot I did, it was more of a conversational, progressive, left-leaning talk show, but of course, nonprofit journalism.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna say my opinion, even though I think my editor thought maybe I was going to. I wasn't going to, tell people how to get abortion pills or anything.
Yeah.
And there was this one point. So I was talking about abortion pills and shield laws in left-leaning states, right?
Gotcha.
And during one answer, I talked about what I know. I can talk about the issue all day. But after a moment, I thought the radio host was going to stop me. So I just stopped talking because I came at the end of my sentence. And she went, you still there? And I was like, yeah. She was like, we're going to go to radio break and we'll be right back. And I was like, God, I don't really think I have anything else to say. I did, but I was like, gosh, I'm glad there's a break. How do you deal with that where you go on a program and no one's, stopping you quickly like they would on broadcast or jumping in quickly?
Yeah. Well, something to also, this is going back to that proactive, the preparation. Asking how long is a segment, is there a commercial break in mind, even asking the producer, hey, kind of what's the flow, and even watching, I think I mentioned to someone else, watching that show that you're about to appear on, does the host ask a couple of questions and they go to break? Try to get a sense of what are you stepping into, and that can help you prepare. Sometimes there'll be dead air and that it happens, it's totally fine. I think it's more, if you're kind of are finished, you can say, I don't like to say back to you, so-and-so. But if you can't see them like you're doing a radio hit, it's okay to kind of throw it back to them so they know you finished your thought. But I would say ask the producer first, hey, what's the flow? What should I prepare for? And if you have more time, keep going. And someone will always tell you to wrap. Let me tell you that right now. Someone will definitely cut you off like, and thank you, thank you so-and-so. We're thank you. We're good for your time. But also something to think in mind, if you have a point you want to say and you need to like interject, like how many people have been on the roundup shows where you're like one of 3 guests or, yep, okay. Sometimes it's tough to get in your answer. Like, the answer. You're like, pick me. But, the same person keeps talking. You're like, stop it. Like, I have a point to make. Sometimes that's another thing, too. You kind of are waiting. It's like playing, it's like doing jump rope. You're trying to figure out when to, like, jump in. So something to think about is, too, is like, okay, when can I really jump in and add something to this topic? Also, you don't want to repeat something. So when you're on these news roundup shows, think about what topics can I really dive into? If there's a topic you're like, I didn't really cover this, then it's like, cool, that's not my thing. But then letting the host know ahead of time, hey, I was in the room for this election. I was the first to talk to the mayor. I was the first to talk to this city council member. Like, I can chime in on this. So I think communication, and the producers let me know, but I feel like that's a way to help you, again, kind of know as much as possible heading into a hit. But dead air will happen. Another thing, if you're doing a Zoom live, like our friend in the back who had when things went to black, it happens. Keep talking. If you can't hear the producer, you can't see the feed anymore, keep talking because they may be able to see you still. So keep going, say your hit, go as much as possible. A producer will go in your ear and say, hey, we lost your feed, or thanks, we dumped a commercial, whatever the case may be. So always keep talking because, again, the kind of dead air or the frozen thing is like, ooh, that's a little weird. But also, I think because we've been doing virtual hits since 2020, there's also more forgiveness. I think people are like, oh, the Zoom feed went bad. All right, it is what it is. But I always tell people keep talking, if you can, because you never know. The hit might finish. So yeah. But any other questions? Oh yeah, comments in the back here. And then we'll move around real quick. Do you have like 15 minutes, give or take? Oh, okay. Well, we got time, y'all. Okay, wait a minute. You ain't ready me yet.
I think kind of just a comment. Having moderated some of the discussions on the radio and stuff like that, oftentimes we are looking for opportunities to interject. And so sticking to the one idea, the one sentence, and not like having the run-on is really helpful for the host and the moderator. Even if, honestly, sometimes if you don't complete a sentence and you just stop talking, they will know to come in often. Yeah, exactly. It's more, I think you probably called in. Yeah, so that is weird when you're like, I can't see the person. So that's why I say I prefer you don't say back to whoever, or you can even say something like, that's something we're watching so-and-so. Like, Kirstin, this is the last thing I'm watching, or that's something, there's a way to kind of end it and signal back to you. And then over here. Yeah. And you'll find your flow too. I should also say, everyone will find their distinct flow and style for doing things. Like, I don't want you to feel like, Kirstin told me I have to do X, Y, and Z. Absolutely not. These are kind of general things to keep in mind. Always put your flair on something. That's why I said with the fashion advice, it's very loose and it's based on local TV. But again, like, find what makes sense for you.
Yeah, I had a question on the producer side on helping out the journalists who are doing these things. I was doing one day, and the journalist I was interviewing, he basically completely like blanked on what he was saying. So I wanted any advice you could have, because I want to be able to be a good host and help them get back on track and get back to what they were saying. So do you have any advice for doing that? Was it like you're doing the interview? Like it was like a recorded interview or something? Yeah, it was a recorded interview. I gotcha. Yeah. So that, I try to think about what was the last thing they were saying. Like, oh, you were saying the sky is blue, and then kind of see if it comes back. And sometimes they just lose and I hate when that happens because you're like, the soundbite was already there. So that's tough because that's a interview situation that's not live or is not recorded as a segment. So, or was it recorded? I mean, I'd assume. It was recorded. It wasn't live. But was it
like as a straight up segment? Like, were you trying to chop it up as like a interview later?
Yeah, it was interview later. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, it's one of those things. Try to like pick up on where the last thought was. And sometimes it's lost because we're human. Yeah. And I've been on that end too where I'm doing an interview and I'm like, we had the sound bites. Or they actually turn left. Like they could be saying something great and then they turn in another direction and you're like, that is so not what I was thinking you were going to say.
That was another question I had of what's a good way to politely get somebody back on the rails? Let's say they've gone off the rails a little bit. How do we get them back on track?
Yeah. Rephrase the question you really want them to answer again. Yeah. Sometimes you got to ask it twice. And they're like, oh yeah. And sometimes if you can, say, hey, I'm gonna re-ask this again. Can you give it a little shorter? And sometimes I tell people, give me 20 seconds, and they give me 30. Yeah. So it's like, sometimes if you know the person, I should say that if you've worked with this person before, tell them a time frame. Like, hey, can we do this again in like 20 seconds? Yeah. And sometimes that can help people refocus. If you're still like they're a new, reporter you're working with, just kind of re-ask the question like, can you briefly summarize this actually? So that's one way to do it.